For Algonquin Highlands for Friday, August the 28th. I'll call the meeting to order and ask if anyone has a declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof.
No.
Hearing none. With respect to the agenda, I just want to let our members know and anyone who's listening that we will be dealing with item number E, NOFKI, first. Our CBO may have to leave the meeting before we're complete, and so we just made a little adjustment to the order that we deal with business. For those who are listening in or watching, I'd like to introduce our committee. Julie Shortreed is our member of council. Gary Trapp is a public representative. Chris Woods, public representative. John Rogers, public representative. We also have with us Sean O'Callaghan, who is our planner, and David Rogers, our CBO. Could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the meeting minutes from July the 31st? Moved by Julie Shortreed, seconded by Gary Trapp.
Moved by Julia Shortreed, seconded by Gary Trapp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves as circulated the meeting minutes of July 31st, 2020. Liz Danielson, yea or nay?
Yes.
John Rogers, yea or nay?
Sorry, yes.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yes.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yes.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
So as I said, our first item of business will be NOFKI on Normwallis Lane in Stanhope, Halls Lake. You could give us your report, please.
This property is located at 1049 Normwallis Lane. The subject lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 1.5 acres in area with 44 meters of frontage on Halls Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a dwelling and a dock. The owner is proposing to demolish the existing one-story dwelling and construct a new 1,623 square foot two-story dwelling. The existing dwelling is currently set back 12.4 meters, and the proposed dwelling will also be set back 12.4 meters from the high water mark. The proposed dwelling will be no closer than the current dwelling set back to the high water mark. The applicant wishes to utilize the cleared area of land which exists. Existing and proposed site infrastructure limit the available building location. This proposed location would allow for the septic system to be located behind the proposed dwelling, maximizing the setback between the septic system and Halls Lake. Parking will continue to be located towards the rear of the property. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling closer to the high water mark than the required 15-meter setback, and will therefore require the following minor variance. From section 4.10.53 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 15 meters to 12.4 meters for the purpose of constructing a 1,623 square foot two-story dwelling, a variance of 2.6 meters. Notice of the application was posted on the property, circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, and to the Halls Hawk Lake Property Owners Association. No objections have been received. One letter of concern regarding the septic system has been received, and 2 letters of support were received. Staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. 1, confirmation from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed structure is not located closer than 12.4 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. 2, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 3, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Before we hear from any representative of the applicant or the public, I would ask if any committee members have questions about the application? Questions from
Sorry.
anyone?
Sorry, Liz, it's Chris. I have a few questions to probably our planner and Dave Rogers. And the first one is the building going to be the same size, square footage on the base, the new building versus the old building? That's to Sean, really, a question.
Yes, it will be in the same footprint. There may be a 1 foot expansion off the back, but it's not towards the water.
And my second question is in regards to the septic system that I noticed behind the property there, there's kind of a stream and a pond or kind of vegetation, et cetera. Will the septic system that goes in, will it be too close to that area? And are there any bylaws or restrictions for putting a septic too close to something like that?
Perhaps David would be best to answer this question.
Go ahead, Mr. CBO.
I'm May through you, Chair. There are provisions under the Ontario Building Code dealing with septic systems on.
I'm sorry, David, you're not coming through quite loud enough.
Okay, I'm gonna put on the headset, just hang on. That better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. This is actually a developed lot currently, and it does have a 2-series holding tank system in place, which is legal. So the lot exists. We will be looking at the proposals. We haven't got the final proposal for the new septic system, but it will have to comply with the requirements under the Ontario Building Code. There are provisions for existing lots where setbacks, as long as they're not getting closer to something that's already there, it is permissible. So we'll be looking at that. I foresee no problems with the septic going in. So, but again, I don't have all that information in front of me to say definitely what the system is that's going in place, whether it will be a holding tank, a Waterloo biofilter system or whatever, but when it goes in, it will meet the requirements of the code.
My concern or question really boils down to that fact of whether it meets code, but it's the proximity to that water and that sort of marshy area at the back. You know, we have setbacks from the shoreline. Do we have setbacks for septic systems from things like that?
Again, those are addressed in the building code.
They're part of the building code?
Correct.
Okay. So the fact that this may be a larger structure with more bedrooms in it, the size of the septic and the setback from that particular piece of real estate will be considered by you and fit within the codes.
Again, through you, Chair, that's correct.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
That's the end of your questions? Yes?
Yes, that is.
Other questions from the committee at this time?
Madam Chair, it's Gary.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Chris addressed the 2 questions I had. I mean, just a comment, the property is sort of surrounded by water on 3 sides. As with respect to the square footage, do we have the dimensions there, the footprint dimensions handy? I may have missed them in the app. I didn't notice it, but Sean, I guess you were saying that it's basically the same footprint that is there now, and the 1,623 square feet is being gained by that's the 2 stories combined, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, the existing building and the proposed building are shown on the site plan. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it here. One is outlined in red.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious about the dimensions of it, but that's okay. If it's the same as the existing, that's fine. Okay, that's all I have.
As Sean said earlier, there could be a slight increase, but it's towards the back of the house.
Right.
Approximately a foot.
Yes.
Other questions? Okay, is there someone here from the applicant who wishes to address the application? Is there someone here who wishes to address the application from the applicant?
Marianne, can you hear us?
Who do we have holding?
Marianne Nofke is the applicant.
Sorry, I had myself muted.
Oh, okay.
Through the chair, this is Marianne Nofke. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, is there anyone on the line who wishes to speak to in either approval or opposition of the application?
Liz, I have one
Hello,
more
can you hear
question.
me?
All right.
Yes, who's speaking?
Greetings, member of the committee and all attendees of this meeting. My name is Adrienne Weller, and along with my parents, Helen and Bill Weller, we speak here today on behalf of our lakes, water courses, lands, and habitats, because we feel the future, longevity, and health of our township requires us to. It was our intention through our written submission 2 days ago to provide a comprehensive overview of our concerns with the current Nofke application. Today, we wish only to highlight the following. As stated in our submission, we are not against development. We are deeply concerned about any development that appears not to adhere to numerous policies in the township's official plan, sections of the township zoning bylaw, and a growing body of recognized evidence that all speak to the importance of protecting our natural shorelines, ultimately to protect the quality and ecological function of our watercourses and lakes. The township's guide to a minor variance application states that for such an application to be approved, it must meet all 3 outlined tests. Regarding test 1, we see the current application with its proposed placement and setbacks for a class 4 septic system, in this case directly adjacent to a wetland watercourse, as not meeting multiple policies within the official plan, nor being sufficiently considerate of the surrounding environment. Regarding test 3, we do not see this development as minor in nature or appropriate to the land in question. As such, we do not see how the proposed plan satisfies the requirement of meeting all 3 tests. We close here by quoting these guiding principles of our township's official plan. Policy 313, the township recognizes the natural environment, especially water, is the municipality's key asset, and its stewardship is the combined responsibility of council, residents, and visitors alike. Policy 331, evaluation of environmental impact will be a principal factor in determining the suitability of any property for development. It is about our water. Thank you.
Can you speak to those comments at all?
Yes, so with the concerns related to the septic system, should committee approve the proposed minor variance, it would need to meet the requirements of the Ontario Building Code, which David has outlined. This is an existing developed lot. They're proposing to reconstruct in the same footprint with the addition of a second story. In my review of the application, it is my opinion that it does meet the general policies of our official plan and zoning bylaw, and that's why I'm recommending approval of the application.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this application?
Liz, can I ask a question of the last caller who was voicing their concerns? Are they objecting to the development of this land totally, or is it their concern about the water and the actual development of this property?
Adrienne, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, in answer to your question, we are not opposed to development, but we are opposed to development that does not adhere to the setbacks that are required for class 4 septic according to the township's official plan, and that do not take adequate consideration of the environmental considerations of this particular property and this particular dwelling being surrounded on 3 sides by a wetland watercourse in very close proximity to the dwelling. Does that sufficiently answer the question?
It sort of does. Assuming what David Rogers had just talked about the septic being having to meet building codes, etc. Then if in fact they are meeting all of those requirements, are you still objecting to this, or are you just objecting in case it is a problem for the water system, table, etc.? I'm not quite sure
We
whether
are-
you're objecting to this property or just objecting in general.
Both, really. Our objection is in this particular case for this particular property. From the information and reviews and consultations that we've been given, and the site plan that we viewed that the Noffkey submitted with their application, it looks as though this septic bed will be much, much closer to the watercourse than we understand the policies of the official plan to be. And we, again, in the consultations we've had, we've been advised that having the septic bed in that position would not meet the Ontario Building Code. So our concern is around how that septic piece fits in to the property in the current proposed location. If there is a solution to have proper septic to code on the property, we are not opposed to the development of the property.
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah,
John?
if I could just perhaps speak to that. The minor variance being sought today is not for the septic system. The septic system will absolutely need to meet the provisions of the Ontario Building Code. The only minor variance being sought today is to redevelop the property within that 15-year setback requirement. The septic system shown on the site plan was a preliminary plan, proposed location, but that has not been submitted to the building department at this point. So if the application is approved, the septic system will have to meet the Ontario Building Code 100%.
So just to add to what Sean is saying, the application for the septic system is part of the conditions of our approval for the reconstruction of the house. So are there any more questions from the committee? Chris?
And Liz, I think the caller is voicing the current concern that maybe I had at the beginning. And I just want to make absolutely sure that that septic system is not going to cause the problems that the concern of the caller is, because that's actually what my concern is about as well. And I want to make sure that that is carefully reviewed and carefully examined because of the proximity to that wetland at the back. So that's how I feel on this matter.
Do you have any further comment to make about that, Mr. Rogers?
Again, through you, Chair, I don't have the completed proposal in front of me regarding the septic system. When we get it, it will be reviewed for compliance with the Ontario Building Code to ensure it meets the minimum standards for the building code.
And it's my understanding that if there are any concerns whatsoever about the system, that one of the options would be to install holding tanks, which would in fact take away any concern of leaching into the watercourse.
Again, through you, Chair, that is a possibility.
Any further questions from the committee? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the application? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to hear the resolution? This is just to put the resolution on the floor. Julie Shortreed, John Rogers.
Moved by Julia Shortreed, seconded by John Rogers. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application AHMV 1720 to seek relief from section 4.10.53 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 15 meters to 12.4 meters for the purpose of constructing a 1,623 square foot 2-story dwelling, subject to the following conditions. One, that confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed structure is not located closer than 12.4 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. Two, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And three, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, which shall include the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. Liz Danielson, yay or nay?
Yay.
John Rogers, yay or nay?
Sorry, is there not an opportunity to comment before the vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I thought that I was giving you that opportunity when I asked if there were any further questions from the committee. Go ahead, John.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'm used to questions and then an opportunity to comment after the questions. I obviously support the motion. I think the Wellers did send us a very well-written and thoughtful comment on the application. I see their concerns, and I really rely on the fact that the Ontario Building Code has to be met in order for a permit to be issued, and that includes a proper septic system being installed. And I rely upon our chief building official to be able to ensure that the system is a proper system. And especially in this case, because of the very well-written concerns, that those will be especially looked at in accordance with the provincial policies and in accordance with the provincial building code. So I rely on our planner saying that it has met all tests as far as he's concerned, and therefore I do support the application.
Thank you, John. I've got to say that I agree with the comments that you're making and trust in. I really do appreciate the concerns that have been submitted by the Weller family, and we'll have to put our faith in the building code as we go forward. So are there any more questions from the committee? So once again, I would ask for your vote. Yay or nay?
Again, Liz, I'm sorry for interjecting again. It's Chris Woods again. What is the bedroom capacity of this new structure? Is it going to be the same as the old, or is it a larger structure, like more bedrooms?
Want to speak to that, Mr. Rogers?
Through you, Chair, I haven't actually reviewed the plans yet.
If Mary Ann, if she's still there, she may be able to answer that.
Is Mrs. Nofke still on the line?
I'm here. Through you, the chair, I'm here. The going from a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom to a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom.
So same number of bedrooms.
Same number of bedrooms.
And
I
that
have
would
actually, pardon?
Go ahead.
That's okay. I've hired a septic designer, and I'm currently working with him on what my options are. We haven't decided on anything yet.
Okay, and I'm sure that we'll go through the building application process.
We will.
Is the use of this property for your personal use, or is it for a rental use?
It is personal use only.
Thank you.
So one more time, are there any more questions from the committee? So we have a motion on the floor. I would ask for a show of hands for all those in favor of the application.
Oh, sorry, I just have to do the yay or nay.
Okay, I thought we changed our procedural bylaw to allow show of hands.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if that applies to.
We'll
Apologies.
we'll get clarification on our appropriate measure of voting for our next meeting, but for now, Sean will go through us one by one with a yay or nay. And you have 2 yays, one for myself
Okay.
and one for Mr. Rogers.
Okay. Julia Shortreed, yay or nay?
Yes.
Gary Trapp, yay or nay?
Yes.
Chris Woods, yay or nay?
Yes, and I would endorse that we go through this procedure the way we're doing it right now, because I think it's very clear that everybody understands and can hear what our response is. They can't see us, but they can hear us.
Good
I would
point,
love
Chris.
that we go through that.
Thank you.
Yes, so that motion is carried.
To the applicant, just keep in mind that there is a 20-day appeal period. And that applies to anyone who has concerns with respect to the application. Thank you. So we will now move on to the next application, which is Bonji on Matabanic Road, Boshkong Lake.
This property is located at 1046 Matabanic Road. The subject lands are currently zoned shoreline residential 1 and designated waterfront in the official plan. The property is approximately 2.06 acres in area with 65.5 meters of frontage on Boshkong Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential. The lands are currently developed with 2 dwellings, a boathouse, a shed, and a dock. The owner is proposing to demolish one of the existing dwellings and construct a detached garage in the same general location. The applicant is proposing to construct a sleeping cabin in the 2nd story of the garage with a total floor area of 611 square feet. The dwelling will be demolished, is approximately 29.2 meters from the high water mark, and the proposed garage will be moved back slightly to achieve the required 30-meter setback. The proposed development will result in the existing 2nd legal non-complying dwelling on the subject lands being demolished, bringing the subject lands into compliance with the zoning bylaw. The existing dwelling contains a living space of approximately 630 square feet, plus a 327 square foot attached garage. The proposed structure will be a detached garage with a 2nd story sleeping cabin with the 611 square foot area. This proposed garage and sleeping cabin will be 30.1 meters from the high water mark. There is significant natural vegetation in front of the proposed development, forming an effective natural buffer. The following minor variance will be required from section 4.2.10.1 of the zoning bylaw to permit an increase in the maximum permitted total floor area of a sleeping cabin from 45 square meters to 56.8 square meters for the purpose of constructing a sleeping cabin in the 2nd story of a detached garage. Notice of the application was posted on the property, circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the Boshkong Lake Property Owners Association. No objections have been received to date, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following condition. 1, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Are there any questions initially from the committee members? Any questions?
Liz, I'd like to make a comment. I thought there was ample room on this property, and I thought the size of the property certainly lent itself to this reconstruction. And I just wanted to make that comment because I feel it should be approved.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the committee members?
It's Gary, Madam Chair. Yeah, just a comment, similar observation because of the size of the lot. I was happy to see that there was no condition in there for a survey. I guess we're quite confident in the distances, and it's a large lot, so no need for extra costs to be incurred by the applicant. So I'm sure that's appreciated all around, and I didn't see any issues with this one either. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to the application? Is there anyone on the line who wishes to speak on behalf of the applicant? Is there
Hi,
anyone?
it's Michael Bonjay.
Hi, Mr. Bonjay.
I don't have anything to add other than what Sean covered off. I was basically going to duplicate what he said.
Is there anyone on the line who wishes to speak against the application? Okay, so any further questions from the committee or concerns? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to put the motion on the floor? A move by Gary Trapp, a seconded by John Rogers. If you could read the resolution, please.
Sorry, it looks like Chris might be.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
I'd be prepared to move this.
Okay,
Sorry, Chris was frozen there for a second, but he's back now.
Okay, I would be prepared to move it.
okay, then we'll move by Chris and seconded by Gary.
Moved by Chris Woods, seconded by Gary Trapp, be it resolved the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application HMV 1320 to seek relief from section 4.2.101 of the zoning bylaw to permit an increase in the maximum permitted total floor area of a sleeping cabin from 45 square meters to 56.8 square meters for the purpose of constructing a sleeping cabin in the second story of a detached garage, subject to the following condition: that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. Liz Danielson, yea or nay?
Yay.
John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
That motion's carried.
Did you get Gary?
Carried.
Sorry, did you get Gary Trapp on that? I didn't hear it.
Yes, I did. I voted in favor, Chris. Yes.
Good. I didn't see that. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Well, you know, we're all learning how to manage these meetings in a new way, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to a slightly different process, which is a good segue into the next application submitted by Wright on Clinto Lake. This is a water access only property. And unfortunately for the committee members, given certain circumstances and requirements for physical distancing, we have not, unless we did so independently, been able to view this property. So I would look to our planner and our building official to make any concerns known to us. So if you want to read your report.
Yes, this property is located at 10369 Clinto Lake, water access only. The lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 1.13 acres in area with 70 meters of frontage on Clinto Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a dwelling, 2 sleeping cabins, a shed, a privy, and a dock. The owner is proposing to construct a 240 square foot addition on the back of an existing sleeping cabin. The existing sleeping cabin is currently set back 3 meters, and the proposed addition will be 6 meters from the high water mark. Staff are recommending a condition be included to convert the second sleeping cabin structure identified as building number 5 on the site plan to a storage building, as only 1 sleeping cabin is permitted per lot. The proposed addition will be located behind an existing sleeping cabin. The subject lands are limited in available building locations that would conform to the zoning requirements due to lot size, septic location, and topographical constraints. The following minor variance will be required. That is from section 4.10.52 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 15 meters to 6 meters for the purpose of constructing a 240 square foot addition to an existing sleeping cabin. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, circulated property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, and to the Hardwood Lake Cottagers Association. No objections have been received, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. One, confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed structure is not located closer than 6 meters to the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. Two, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. Three, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, which shall include the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. And four, that the sleeping cabin identified on the site plan as building number 5 being converted to a storage building to the satisfaction of the planner.
Are there any questions from the committee about what is being proposed at this time?
Liz, it's Chris Woods again.
Go ahead.
Glad you said this was water access only. I drove to try and find it and couldn't find it, so I'm glad you said that. Because I didn't see the property, I felt exactly the same way you did. We have to rely on what we're hearing and not being able to look at the property. The only comment I have to make is that is the building 5 presently an existing sleeping cabin, or is it a storage unit now? And I don't know who I asked that question of.
So when I was on site with the chief building official, it did appear to be a sleeping cabin. The owners were not on site though, and we were not inside the building. So that condition was included out of an abundance of caution. So we will need to inspect that to make sure that it is either a storage building or confirm it as a sleeping cabin and make sure it's converted to a storage building.
Then to go to the question again, is 1 for sure a sleeping cabin?
The building, the proposed addition is going on is for sure a sleeping cabin.
Okay.
Did you want to add to that, John?
So building number 5 is the one that we're not 100% sure. It appeared to be a sleeping cabin, which if it is, that's 2 sleeping cabins on one property, which would not be permitted. So that's why I included the condition that it be converted to a storage building.
Okay, that makes sense. If there are 2 sleeping cabins, you're taking 1 out. I would not want to hear, but you've obviously answered that 5 is a sleeping cabin, 1's a storage, and then you converted 1 into a sleeping and expanded it.
I see, yes. No, yeah, the building, the proposed addition is going on is absolutely a sleeping cabin.
Okay. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Gary, did you have a question? And then John.
Yes, Madam Chair, it was partially answered, but that building number 5, looking at the site plan, I'm assuming there's no issues on the side yard setback distances. On the diagram, there's some specific distances, but not the side yard, and it looks very, very close to it. But of course, it's not a 2-scale diagram, so it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm assuming there's no issues with side yard setback distances on building number 5.
I would need to confirm that. It is only I believe it's a 1.2 meter setback for a storage building. But yes, the side yard will be looked at.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Rogers, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to perhaps confirm with Sean that the applicants are in agreement with the number 5 building being turned into a storage facility.
Yes, they were. I've spoken to them about it, and there were no concerns raised.
Is there anyone here from the applicant or representing the applicant who wishes to speak to the application?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I think if you could speak up just a little bit.
All right. Okay, I'm trying. I did speak to Sean, and we did agree that it's actually being used for storage right now, and it's going to be converted as requested. I have a question, and I'd appreciate it if Sean could review the conditions. The sleeping cabin one is one I understood, but I didn't understand any other conditions that were being put forward.
Just before Sean speaks, I wonder if you could just identify yourself for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Steve Pumpel. I'm the husband of one of the owners, Ann Wright, whose mother originally owned it from her dad.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
Sure, so I'll go through the conditions. The first one is confirmation from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed structure is not located closer than 6 meters to the high water mark prior to any clearing, site alteration, or the issuance of a building permit. So that means we just need confirmation from a surveyor that the building is in fact meeting that 6 meter setback requirement.
May I comment on that?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have two surveys. One was 1954, and one was 1987. And that building has been there since 1954. And the building that we're adding onto, which is the current sleep cabin, hasn't moved since 1954. So my question is, why should we incur the cost to bring another land surveyor out there to repeat what they've done twice already? And the property is listed on the survey, which I have a physical copy of, in 1987.
Yeah, I mean, if you can provide us a copy of that, I know you've sent us some plans, but they weren't entirely clear as far as where that building was in setbacks. So if the building is shown on that plan and it's completed by an Ontario land surveyor and demonstrates that the proposed addition is no closer than 6 meters, then that would be sufficient in meeting that condition.
All right, well, I actually have it in my hand, so I will, I'm not sure how to convey that to you because it's the only copy we have, but can I get a certified copy of it made, or do I just show up and show it to you and tell me how to do that?
Yeah, we can speak afterwards as far as the logistics of that are concerned.
Okay, thank you. Could you tell me the second condition, please?
Yes, the second condition is that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. So that will be with the building department.
Okay, we just had the septic system inspected, and I have the permits associated with that, so okay.
Right. 3, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, which shall include the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Since we're right on the back of the existing building, I don't understand what you're telling me.
So we would like some silt fencing erected between where you're building and the shoreline to serve 2 purposes. One, to stop any potential runoff of disturbed soils into the water, and also just to make clear where the water is so any equipment or workers on site don't disturb that area.
They're going to be behind the building, so I don't understand how that will impact it, but and I'm not sure. I guess you could put a plastic fence up. I really don't know. I mean,
Yep. So it would have to be. It would need to be silt fencing, and the building is quite close to the water at 6 meters, so that's why I'm including that as a recommended condition.
So do you say a steel fence?
Silt fence.
Silt fence. Okay, sorry. I understand. I understand that. Okay, thank you. I understand.
Are there any more comments or concerns from the applicant?
Oh, I have one question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Going back to the question, Sean, your second condition on the sewage permits, that's just something that would be sorted out going through Greg Moore's group on the building permitting?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I have no more questions. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the line who wishes to speak against the application, or are there any letters of objection?
No letters of objection. I don't believe anyone else is here to speak to it.
So do the members of the committee have any subsequent questions or comments about the application?
Madam Chair, it's Chris Woods again. I'm not sure that the gentleman on the line understood what silt fencing meant, and I think he thought it was quite onerous. And maybe a conversation with Sean afterwards would satisfy him that this is not an onerous thing to put that around while they're doing the construction. That's my only comment.
I'm sure that can take place. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to hear the resolution? Moved by Julie Shortreed, seconded by John Rogers.
Moved by Julia Shortreed, seconded by John Rogers. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application AHMB 1420 to seek relief from section 4.10.52 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 15 meters to 6 meters for the purpose of constructing a 240 square foot addition to an existing sleeping cabin, subject to the following conditions. One, that confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed structure is not located closer than 6 meters to the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. Two, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. Three, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, which shall include the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. And four, that the sleeping cabin identified on the site plan as building number 5 be converted to a storage building to the satisfaction of the planner. Liz Danielson, yay or nay?
Yay.
John Rogers, yay or nay?
Yay.
Julia Shortreed, yay or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yay or nay?
Yay.
Chris Woods, yay or nay?
Yay.
That motion's carried.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is submitted by Shepherd on Twin Rocks Lane, Cushog Lake in Stanhope. I believe that our planner has some comments to make about this application.
Oh, it looks like David might have to go.
Go ahead, David.
With your permission, Chair, I do have to leave for another meeting, so
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Yes, so with respect to this application, the applicant has advised that they are looking at potentially increasing the size of the proposed garage structure, which will require a recirculation of the application. Therefore, my recommendation today is to defer this matter until that new size has been confirmed and we have a chance to recirculate.
So that application would come back to us at our next regularly scheduled meeting. Any questions or comments about this?
Madam Chair, we also received a number of letters of objection with respect to ownership of this property. I'm not sure if the deferral would be just to the next meeting or whether the deferral is to a time to be determined. I would highly recommend to the applicant that they cover off that particular aspect of the objections that have been raised to at this point. So it could take a bit longer to do that.
Well, and I do believe that we need some clarification on or some documentation on the actual ownership of the laneway that runs through the property. But we can do that, and Sean can bring it back at the the next appropriate time when we've got all the information that we need.
Yeah, so I just have a motion for deferral. There's no set date on when they would be coming back in the motion. But yes, once we have all the required information, or excuse me, are able to recirculate, then yes, it will be brought back.
To Sean, I would assume all these objections have been presented to the applicant, and the fact that they're now looking at increasing the building doesn't indicate to me that they really concur with the objections. And I would find this very hard to vote in favor of, and particularly in case they are increasing the size of the building. So I don't see even the need to defer this to a further time, but maybe that's the most appropriate thing to do. But it seems like a lot of extra cost for people that may not be necessary. That's my.
I believe that it's his right to resubmit with the different dimensions. Of course, all the letters of objections would come back to us and be considered by us at the time. We would also allow both the applicant and those objectors to speak to the application. We've still got a little bit more information that we need to get some clarification on this application. And we need to have an opportunity to go and have a look at it ourselves. I did go and look at the property myself yesterday, but I would wait until it comes back onto the agenda to comment. So are there any other comments or questions? Did I see your hand, John?
Only to move the deferral.
Okay, could we have a seconder for the resolution to defer? Gary? Thank you.
Moved by John Rogers, seconded by Gary Trapp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby defers minor variance application age MB 15 submitted by Shepherd. Liz Danielson, yea or nay?
Yes.
John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yes.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yes.
That motion's carried.
The next item on the agenda is the application by Galbraith on Grouse Grove Lane in the Township of Sherburne, Crane Lake.
Yes, this property is located at 1032 Grouse Grove Lane. The lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The lands are approximately 1.34 acres in area with 68.5 meters of frontage on Crane Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential. The lands are currently developed with a dwelling, 4 sheds, a dock, and a sleeping cabin. The owner is proposing to construct a 640 square foot addition on the side of the existing dwelling. The existing dwelling is currently set back 20.6 meters, and the proposed addition will be 16.4 meters from the high water mark. The proposed addition will be located on the easterly side of the existing dwelling. The proposed addition will not project beyond the front face of the existing dwelling. However, the existing cottage is on a slight angle, combined with an irregular shoreline, which results in the lesser setback. The subject lands are limited in available building locations that would conform to zoning requirements due to topographical constraints. The applicant will therefore require the following minor variance from section 4.10.52 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 20.6 meters to 16.4 meters for the purpose of constructing a 640 square foot addition to an existing dwelling. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands. No objections have been received to date, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance with the following conditions. 1, confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed addition is not located closer than 16.4 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. 2, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 3, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, which shall include the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Having heard the application, are there any questions from the committee? John?
Just want to confirm, especially after we just dealt with the Shepherd application, the survey that was attached as the site plan, it looks like it's a shore road conveyance survey. Is that land now owned by the Shepherd or by the applicant?
Yes, that shore road allowance has just recently been closed.
Okay, thank you.
Gary?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was looking again back to the site plan on this Galbraith one. The moving of the bunkie, the way it's sketched here on my diagram anyways, it looks like the bunkie will be moved over onto the property line on the site plan. And that might just be a sketching oversight, I don't know. But when you look at the actual property, it doesn't look like, if I recall, any real convenient places there to move that bunkie in that area. It was quite a hill and of course, close to the property line. So I was just looking for some clarification on that.
Yes, the survey shown, so that is not a property line anymore. There was 2 adjacent lots that were divided up between parcels in that area, so that it is actually part of this property. That line no longer exists.
Okay, thank you.
That would have been my question too, the location of the bunkie. Other questions? Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, one other minor thing. I think this is just an administrative typo maybe on the staff report. If it made some reference to Maple Lake and the saturation of the lake, I think that's just maybe a typo there in terms of reference to that rather than Crane Lake, or is there some connection there? On page
no, that was an oversight on my part. I apologize.
Just a typo you might want to straighten out for record purposes only. It's a very minor item. Thank you.
But a good catch. Thank you. Other questions on the application before us? Is there anyone on the line who wishes to speak to the application on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, good afternoon. Jim Galbraith here, the applicant. Thank you very much. I appreciate the kind consideration of the adjustment committee here. My only comment to make, you've nailed all the bits and pieces there. And yeah, we did add 75 feet to our property about 7-8 years ago through acquisition of the side property here. We are committed to shoreline preservation, and that's why with our neighbors due east of us, we did purchase an old cottage there and tore it down, and we're remediating the shoreline there, removed the dock and so on and so forth. Further to that issue, we did receive a permit and install a class 4 filter bed septic system to the west of the property here 2 years ago. So I think we're in good shape to receive a 2-piece bathroom that we are imagining as part of the addition on the side of the cottage here. So thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Galbraith. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the application, either for or against on the line? Any further questions or comments by the committee? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to hear the resolution? Moved by John Rogers, seconded by Gary Trapp. Thank you.
Moved by John Rogers, seconded by Gary Trapp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application age MB 1620 to seek relief from section 4.10.52 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 20.6 meters to 16.4 meters for the purpose of constructing a 640 square foot addition to an existing dwelling, subject to the following conditions. One, confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed addition is not located closer than 16.4 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. Two, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And three, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, which shall include the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. Liz Danielson, yea or nay?
Yay.
John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
That motion's carried.
Thank you. Just a reminder to Mr. Galbraith that there is a 20-day appeal period before any development or construction can take place. Our final item for the day is an application submitted by Deister on Lighthouse Drive in the Township of Sherburne, Coagama Lake.
Yes, so this property is located at 1123 Lighthouse Drive. The subject lands are zoned shoreline residential 2 and designated waterfront under the official plan. The lands are approximately 1.22 acres in area with 57 meters of frontage on Coagama Lake. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a dwelling, 2 sheds, a boathouse, a dock, and a sleeping cabin. The owner is proposing to construct a 42 square foot addition on the northerly side of the existing dwelling. The existing dwelling is currently set back 3.3 meters, and the proposed addition will be 6.7 meters from the high water mark. The property was subject to a previous application for minor variance in 2002 to allow for a 38-foot boathouse projection into the water from the maximum permitted 26-foot projection. This application was approved. The proposed addition to the cottage will not project beyond the front face of the existing dwelling. There is significant natural vegetation in front of the proposed development, forming an effective natural buffer. The following minor variance will be required, and that is from section 4.10.52 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 15 meters to 6.7 meters for the purpose of constructing a 42 square foot addition to an existing dwelling. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the Coagama Lake Property Owners Association. No objections have been received to date, and staff are recommending approval of the proposed minor variance, conditional on the following. 1, confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed structure is not located closer than 6.7 meters to the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. 2, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 3, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, including the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from the committee?
Madam Chair, it's Chris Woods.
Go ahead, and then Mr. Trapp.
I'm a little confused as to where this addition is going. I assume, just from what I was looking at it, that it was going in the area where the brick stone work area and entrance to the house is. Am I correct in that, Sean?
I believe the addition is really just to cover the entranceway or enclose the entranceway on top of the existing staircase. So my understanding is it's all on top of that existing deck space.
That's what I thought it might be. And act like a mudroom or something like that, because you would be going right into the house, I guess, from that spot, and therefore it was kind of like a mudroom. Is that to the owner who were the applicant, I'd like to understand that a little bit. So that's one of the questions I have.
To me, the drawing appeared to show that there would be a covering over the entrance where the stone patio area is, as well as an addition on the other end of the house.
Okay, I can, so that other addition is just an open deck which complies with the zoning requirements. The small area outlined in red is just a covered entrance, and perhaps the applicant's agent could just clarify if that will in fact be on top of the existing staircase or encroaching onto the patio stone area.
Is
Hello?
there someone here to represent the applicant?
Sandy McKay speaking. I'm the applicant.
If you want to just ask that question again, John.
Sandy, can you just clarify if the proposed covered entrance, if that will be on top of the existing deck area or if that will encroach onto the stone patio area?
It's the same depth as the existing entrance, pretty close. It's a slight bit wider by a couple of feet, just for the positioning of posts. It's actually not an enclosure, but since it's a deck that would have a roof over it, it's subject to a minor variance. So it is just on posts, and it is slightly wider.
Are there other questions from the committee? Gary?
Yes, Madam Chair. Yeah, so that clarifies the site plan. There's two things going on here. There's the portico on the one side and the open deck on the other. The application is for reduction in the high water mark from 49 feet to 22 feet. So the 22 feet is over on the portico side. The deck, the open deck is actually showing on the site plan, it's going to be 16 feet from the water. That's of no particular issue to us for purposes of the variance. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that proposed deck will meet the minimum setback requirements and does not require a minor variance.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
So just for clarification for my purposes, the open deck at the other end of the house is not going to have a roof over it. It's just a deck.
The area outlined in red that's showing 16 feet to the water, that is an open deck and will not require a minor variance.
Okay. Chris, did you have a question?
Not really. I think I'm clarified a little bit. I must admit I missed the fact that there was going to be an open deck on the south side. I thought it was only the north side we were dealing with. I must admit there's a lot of building on this property and it's very close to the shore. I'm surprised the deck isn't deemed to be too close to the shore. If you're on the south side, we're talking about. Sean, you confirm that it doesn't have to be sitting back more than 16 feet?
That's correct. It'll meet the minimum setback requirements.
I'm absolutely shocked at that, by the way. Anyway, if that's what the bylaw says, I'm actually concerned that that's part of the bylaw if that's the case. Anyway.
Well, we are in the process of reviewing our zoning bylaw at the moment, and we'll be looking at items that are built in proximity to water.
Well, the reason I say this is I remember applications we've had where they've been building decks out towards the lake, and I think there was one that I don't even know what lake it was on, Raven Lake or something like that, and it was encroaching on the 100-foot mark, and it was 11 meters or 12 meters away, and we were all objecting to this, and it was a screened-in porch. So I guess that's the difference. But it just seemed to me that what's the difference of a screened-in porch versus a open porch or an open deck in a close proximity to the water? I just find that strange.
You're not alone. Go ahead, Sean, if you can.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna confirm that is the major difference between the two is one's an open deck. So there's different provisions for that. Once you put a roof over it or enclose it in any way, it becomes essentially part of the dwelling, and the setback requirements for a dwelling would then be triggered.
But it does lend to the concerns that have been voiced by a number of meetings about, you know, what we've been calling deck creep. That first there's a deck and then it becomes a screened-in porch, which is not considered to be a room. And then ultimately it becomes an enclosed structure. And it just doesn't seem to be a way for us to manage that at the present time, if it's a concern. Is that fair?
Yeah, if it's an open deck, there's a difference between an open deck and a screened-in porch, or screened-in porch, as far as the zoning bylaw is concerned, and different setback requirements for each.
Are there other questions or concerns about the application? I do have a comment about it's a highly developed piece of property. Lovely property though it is, it does appear that there's more than one bunkie on the property. They're called sheds, but it looked to me like there was more than one bunkie there. I just would like to get clarification on that, but you know, if we can.
We can.
So Sandy, would you like me to say this?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, so this property is owned by a family who are participating in this more recent rental phenomenon quite a while ago. And so for 8, maybe 10 weeks of the year, they rent out their cottage, and they also use it at various times. So they do have those sheds. They can store their nicer and more personal things in the sheds and bring them in and out as they use the place themselves. They know the sheds are the sheds are off limits to the renters, and they know the sheds are not to be bedrooms. So that's about all I can say on that subject. And just on the other item about the municipality's concerns about distinctions of when you have a problem in encroachment or whatever, the deck, it's easy to draw a line. I've been a builder for a long time in the Dorset area, and I know that if you can limit things to just a deck, it's pretty benign. But the moment you put a roof on, that's when things start to morph into other uses. So I hope the municipality can keep that deck provision that close to the lake. It's not really visible, and particularly in this case, and there'll be others like it, where this deck is so low to the ground, it could be a patio. So there are lots of instances where decks close to the water are pretty unoffensive. But anyway, back to the shed, which is really what you're asking about.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Are there other questions or concerns from the committee? Is there anyone on the line who wishes to speak to, in addition, speak to the application or against? Sounds like not. So could I have a mover and a seconder to hear the resolution? Julie Shortreed, John Rogers, thank you.
Moved by Julia Shortreed, seconded by John Rogers. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application AHMV 1820 to seek relief from section 4.10.52 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the required setback from the high water mark from 15 meters to 6.7 meters for the purpose of constructing a 42 square foot addition to an existing dwelling, subject to the following conditions. Confirmation be provided from an Ontario land surveyor that the proposed structure is not located closer than 6.7 meters from the high water mark prior to any clearing or site alteration or the issuance of a building permit. 2, that any on-site sewage system permits and reviews required by the township have been obtained and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. And 3, that appropriate construction mitigation measures be implemented, which shall include the erection and maintenance of silt fencing between the proposed building and the shoreline. Liz Danielson, yea or nay?
Yay.
John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
That motion's carried.
Okay, the only other item that we've got is adjournment. I would like to thank the members of the committee and anyone who was in attendance to provide clarification or voice concerns with our applications. I understand that we have a number of applications that would be heard in September, so I just would like to clarify the date. Are we looking at the 25th?
Yes, if that works for the committee, then that's what I was going to propose.
Would we all be available for Friday, September the 25th?
I believe I am.
It's Gary here. I should be good for that.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so could I have I'm sorry, Julie, did you have a comment?
No, sorry, I had my hand in the air. Nothing.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Jumping the gun, are you?
let's get out of here, she says. Gary, do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just wonder if we could have the committee members hold back just for maybe 2 minutes, just one minor thing I'd like to raise if I could. Sorry for not putting that on the agenda, but just a comment that might have fit elsewhere, but I just wanted to raise something if I might.
This is an open meeting. It must remain open to the public. So if you want to make your comment now, you can go ahead, but.
Sure, okay. It's with respect to water access only properties. And we've sort of discussed this before. We rely on our very qualified officials to give them. It's difficult as a committee member representing the public to add value when you can't actually see a property. And we've certainly had instances, particularly lately, where something seems straightforward on paper, but when you actually see it, then there's some issues that come up, or there's some objections, or there's something. So there's a lot of value in actually seeing the property. And I know, we've got some physical distancing issues right now with COVID-19, but I just wonder if we could make a point of, in the somewhat near future, trying to figure out how to maybe expand the number of eyes that get to actually look at these water access only properties, if it's practical.
Yeah, so there's certainly some social distancing restraints as far as accommodating that, but what I would suggest is if the committee does have concerns with a water access property, that they defer that application until such time it can be safely, a site visit can be safely achieved. The committee can certainly has that power if they wish to.
That would sound like a reasonable approach for now. While we do have social distancing or physical distancing requirements. Chris, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it's more a case of, I didn't realize it was a water access. Was it on the application? Did I miss it somewhere?
It actually is on the application. You'll see even on the agenda, although it's an acronym, but it says WAO, which means water access.
I saw that. I had no idea what it meant.
I'm not sure. Is it listed in the? Is it actually laid out in the report that it's water access only?
I'd have to double check, but
okay. Yeah. We'll make that clearer.
I think that would be helpful, certainly for me, because I did drive down looking for it, and I eventually gave up. So anyway, I agree with Gary's comments. It would be very nice, because I think it's very important that we do visit these sites, and it enlightens me to what the applicant is dealing with and what the issues may be related to what they're trying to do. So I think it's very important.
We'll do our best to resolve that concern. both on paper and physically. Any other comments? So
Sorry, Madam Chair, just something that popped into my mind on that. If we can't work water access with us going there, I'm wondering whether we should require the applicants to do a drone video for us so that we can see it in more live time, in a sense.
that might be something that we consider, but it could be a considerable additional cost to do that. Not everybody has access to that kind of equipment, but it's an option that would help us. Absolutely.
Does the township own a drone?
No. Not at the present time, no.
I think it would be too onerous a stipulation to put on a water access only person to have to provide a video of the property. I think that would be too onerous a request.
But it would help in the case of a particularly contentious development where there's a lot of questions. It might help, but that's something that we can discuss again at a future meeting.
Yeah, sorry, it popped into my mind, so I thought maybe that just make it as a suggestion at this point.
No, it's a good thought. Thank you. So could I have a mover and a seconder for adjournment? Julie Shortreed, seconded by Chris Woods.
Moved by Julia Shortreed, seconded by Chris Woods. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby adjourns its regular meeting at 2:21 p.m. Liz Danielson, yea or nay?
Yay.
John Rogers, yea or nay?
Yay.
Julia Shortreed, yea or nay?
Yay.
Gary Trapp, yea or nay?
Yay.
Chris Woods, yea or nay?
Yay.
That motion's carried.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you at the end of September.
Thank you.